Heyo, hey everyone. It's Sleepy Reader with a comic book haul, back issue comic book haul. I went comic book hunting with Sam's Tangled Web yesterday. We went over across the river to Vancouver, Washington, where there's this great store called I Like Comics. I meant to stick with the 50-cent bins. They have like an entire wall of 50-cent bins. But stupidly, not stupidly, but I couldn't resist going and looking through their other back issues, which are marked 50% off. So still feel like pretty good deals, but you end up spending more money. And I got a whole ton of Savage Sword of Conan's. Most of these for $3 a piece, one or two from the $1 bin. I'm going to show you those in another video. I'm going to do a big Savage Sword of Conan video at some point coming up. Other black and white mags I got were the last two, almost the last two magazines I need to get for my Savage Tales collection. I'm missing Savage Tales #1, which is the key book because it's the first Swamp Thing, not Man Thing, the first Man Thing. So I have yet to pull the trigger on that expensive thing. But other than that, I now have a full Savage Tales collection. It starts out with Conan, but then they shifted over to Khazar, or Khazar, as I called him when I was a kid. I still have to think Khazar and then translate to Khazar, which I learned was the way Stan Lee pronounced it, and I guess everyone else does. This is a cool cover, which I thought was by Neal Adams, but it's not a Neal Adams cover. Let me double check who's it by. They say this cover is by Michael Kaluta. It doesn't look at all like Michael Kaluta to me, but I don't think they would have got that wrong. And then inside we've got a Jerry Conway, Steve Gann Khazar story, and then at the back a Shanna the She-Devil story, which kind of tickles me because later on Shanna the She-Devil moved into the Savage Land and ended up marrying Khazar, or Kevin Plunder, I believe is his name. So yeah, looks really nice. And I also got, so that was issue 9, and this is issue 10 with a fabulous Boris Vallejo cover painting. This one, I don't know if it's the same thing. It's got a Khazar story and then a Red Sonja story. But the Khazar story is interesting to me because it's drawn by Russ Heath, but inked by the Crusty Bunkers, who were the various artists who worked in Neal Adams' studio. And when they needed a story inked quickly, Neal Adams would just have everyone in the studio work on inking it. But Neal Adams inked a lot of the main figures when it was Crusty Bunkers, and other people did a lot of the backgrounds and minor figures. But it may have just depended on the day who was there and who was inking, so the style can shift slightly. But it usually has a bit of a Neal Adams vibe. So I thought that was interesting, especially Russ Heath with Neal Adams style laid over it. Plus, I never even thought Russ Heath would have drawn Khazar. I think of Russ Heath as military stuff and other things along that line. Okay, then the color comics. I've just got a few holes in my Marvel Fanfare collection, and it seems like certain issues you see over and over and over again in the 50-cent boxes, including this one. So I thought I already had it, but I didn't. So I picked it up, 50-cent box. It's got a lot of George Freeman art in here. George was best known for his work on Captain Canuck, as far as I know. But then I think he became mostly an inker. But I may have that history about George Freeman wrong. I'm not sure. Then I got a bunch of Thors from those non-50-cent boxes where everything is 50% off. And it seems like it's mostly comics between about $6 and $20. Maybe there was some in there $30. So for instance, I got this Thor 215. It said $6 on it. I'm wondering if there's something missing or cut out. So then I get it for $3. Here's 216. That looks like a Gil Kane cover to me. And, I think this Thor cover, the first one, 215, I think that's John Buscema. I like guessing at the cover artist for Bronze Age covers or Silver Age covers. Thor 217. This, I'm quite positive, is a John Romita cover. So one thing about going over to Vancouver, Washington is we always could show our Oregon ID and not have to pay sales tax because we don't have sales tax in Oregon. And so to encourage us to spend our money over there, we're allowed not to pay sales tax over there. But apparently they've changed that. So this time Sam and I found out when we got up to the counter, we're going to be paying sales tax, which adds up. And also it screws with the math in your head if you're used to not calculating a sales tax when you're picking things up. I have no idea who this cover's by. At a wild guess, maybe it's Rich Buckler or Ron Wilson. I don't know. I'm gonna look that one up. And then, so I meant to just do 50-cent books, but I ended up doing a lot of other stuff. But here's some of the stuff. I got a bunch. Mostly I got Action Comics from the 50-cent bins. Here's a 2007 annual, which has a bunch of different stories, Krypton-related, Superman history-related stories by Jeff Johns and Richard Donner, the writing by both of them, and different art by different artists on each story. So, and including a Joe Kubert 2-pager. Would have liked even more Joe Kubert. But all the artists seem to have interesting art styles in here, so I thought this was a cool pickup for 50 cents. Then I got this Action cover. Here is art by Leonard Starr. Who was Leonard Starr? Why does that name sound so familiar? I don't recognize the style here. And script by John Byrne. This is Action 297. Byrne must have been on his way out from Superman at that point, because by Action Comics 601, they converted Action Comics to a weekly anthology book, every issue having a short chapter from, and it was a bit oversized, I think, and every issue would have a short chapter from a bunch of different heroes. So Black Hawk, Wild Dog, Secret Six, Dead Man, and Green Lantern. And I know later they added Black Canary. So I have a lot of these. I'd like the entire run of the weekly thing. Since I've been able to get almost all of them from 50-cent boxes. This one I actually got at Cosmic Monkey for $2, so I paid more for this. This is the first one in the series 601. But I've got almost all of them from 50-cent boxes, and now I want to fill out the whole run, because then I'm going to sit down and read it all. Hopefully it'll be any good after I bought so many. So 601 I needed, and then I needed 609 with Black Canary on the cover, and believe it or not, that is a Brian Boland drawing. I did not recognize it, but it is signed by Brian Boland, or by Boland. I assume that's Brian Boland. I don't know. So I should turn it that way. Not that anyone but me cares. And then another Black Canary cover on 624, which was the next one I needed. And on 627, another one I needed is this crazy Nightwing outfit. The Disco Nightwing outfit, as they jokingly call it in the Tiny Titans. And I really like this cover on 641. It's a classic Superman cover. You could have seen this cover, or a cover very much like it, in the 1940s. So that's very cool. So I guess Superman is in here, plus Demon, Phantom Lady, Wild Dog, Phantom Stranger, and Human Target. Human Target's an interesting concept, which I've never actually read any Human Target, but his job is to go take other people's places who are going to get shot at. And then post the weekly, Action Weekly, we get Superman back in here on issue 661, and he's teamed up with Plastic Man, and that's kind of that tickled my fancy for 50 cents. I thought I'd grab that. Who's the creative team? Roger Stern, Bob McLeod, and Brett Breeding. It looks pretty cool. Roger Stern is usually good, although, I don't know, at DC he didn't shine as much in my memory of his work as he did at Marvel. Although I guess he wrote a lot of pretty good Supermans. And then this one, 677, it looks like he's teamed up or fighting with his cousin Supergirl. So I couldn't resist that. And then I've got a lot of them now, but I'm always looking to fill in that, to me, classic period of Avengers that was Roy Thomas, mostly with John Buscema, but also Sal Buscema and some Neil Adams mixed in. So I found some issues I didn't already have. Issue number 76 with the villain Archon, and this is just a pretty incredible cover. I think it's a John Buscema cover. Kind of reminiscent of King Kong, I guess. Very cool. And then I found, excuse me, my asthma has really been kicking in. And I think maybe there's a little dust on these books. Then I found Avengers number 89. I think this is near the beginning or the beginning of the Kree-Skrull War, before Neil Adams got on became part of the team on that. And then Avengers 90. I don't know if this is part of the Kree-Skrull War too, or maybe this is just like a prelude to the Kree-Skrull War. I don't know. I gotta go back and read all this stuff. So yeah, that was real exciting. That's all my stuff that I got. Well, minus all the Conan stuff that I didn't show you, that I got at I Like Comics on my jaunt with Sam. Afterwards, we found a little diner that was just a block away from the comic shop and had a fun lunch and a chat. So that's really cool, going comic book hunting with a friend. I really like it. But let me show you a bunch of stuff that I got about a month ago at a 50% off sale at Cosmic Monkey. I was very excited to get Shade the Changing Man number 2, half price, $3. Man, I am happy to get Steve Ditko at cheap prices, but this is great Steve Ditko. It's kind of sad that it's not valued by the comic collecting world. And Shade the Changing Man number 3. Great cover. So these were, this was a character created by Ditko, and the plots were by Ditko and the art. And then they brought in, I think, Michael Fleischer to write the script, to put the words in the mouths. Okay, this Hulk number 173 with a classic Herb Trimpe cover. Is evidence of how unobservant I am. I picked it up in my rush at the sale and didn't, can you see it? There is a rip in the cover. Yeah, there it is. And I didn't notice it, but the clerk at the store noticed it. And I said, oh, well, if the cover's ripped, I don't want it. And he said, well, how about I give it to you for free? So I said, okay, well, then I'll take it. So I might want another copy of this someday, but other than that rip, maybe it's in nice shape. And then just kind of randomly, they had I remember at Cosmic Monkey, they had a ton of Legion of Superheroes, and I wasn't sure what to get, but I just grabbed this one randomly that I liked the look of the cover. Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, number 251, and then an older Legion of the Superheroes. I assume it's a different series and not the same as that this is like Superboy that then morphed into Superboy in the Legion of Superheroes. But this has a very old school, I don't know if that's Kurt Swan, but old school Kurt Swan kind of look. So I decided to pick that one up. There were tons more. I just didn't even know which way to go. I need a plan for collecting the Legion. There's so much Legion of Superheroes. And I stumbled across this. Let's see, I pulled it out of this thing. It was cost me $4. I think it's relatively modern Arcrum work, but it looks really nice. It's in color. I guess all the characters like Flaky Funt have become more middle-aged. So I'll check that out. And then I did not know that they must have been trying to bring him back. Starting with Showcase Presents 101, they feature Hawkman, along with Hawkgirl and Adam Strange. I don't think the interior art is by Joe Kubert, but I love these Joe Kubert covers. So that's 102. Looks like maybe they're rescuing Alana, not the Phantom Stranger, Adam Strange's girlfriend. And 103. I think that's all the showcases that had Hawkman, but I'm not positive. I gotta look into that more. And I don't know if that led to Hawkman getting his own book again or not. Okay, and here's a bunch that I just bought for the covers. I don't really know anything about Tomahawk, but just glancing at it, I realized Tomahawk is not a Native American character. He's actually this blonde guy here. I love this. These Neil Adams covers on this are so intense, and such great compositions. And actually, whoever did the coloring on these covers did a really good job too. So that's what was that? 127, 128, and this is 130. Neil Adams covers are hidden all over DC obscurities from this era. It's amazing. So yeah, that's an intense cover, and there's a real clue that who Tomahawk is. He's this blonde guy. You know what I guess? Because he is dressed up in pseudo Native American garb. He's probably one of those heroes who was raised by the Indians. We can't have an Indian hero, but we can have a white man who was raised by the Indians as a hero, I suppose, especially back then. And here is Tomahawk 125, and that is an incredibly intense cover also. Neil Adams knew how to capture that moment when things are really happening. A genius of cover art. And then finally, not the least of it, but the last of it, Creatures on the Loose. I am trying to collect all the Creatures on the Loose stories involving sword and sorcery or sword and sandals. This is Gulliver Jones on Mars. I forget what author originally wrote the Gulliver Jones stories, so they're adaptations. But clearly he's a takeoff on John Carter of Mars. They probably couldn't get the rights to him at that point, so they decided to do Gulliver Jones instead. Picture window. So that's Creatures on the Loose number 17. And here's Creatures on the Loose number 18, more Gulliver Jones, another picture window. After a while with Gulliver Jones, Creatures on the Loose switched over to Thongor, the warrior of Lost Lemuria, a Conan ripoff instead of a John Carter ripoff. And Thongor, interestingly, was originally the barbarian that Roy Thomas and Stan Lee planned to do at Marvel Comics. And they only ended up with Conan because the agent of Lynn Carter, the creator of Thongor, was not answering their calls. He was playing head games with them, trying to get more money, I guess. So that's Creatures on the Loose number 27 and number 28. I don't know who did that cover on number 27. Is that Val Myrick there? But I'm quite sure that is John Romita. John Romita Sr., to be more exact. Very cool cover. Okay, that's my haul. Thanks again to Sam for coming out with me on a little adventure. Hope we can do it again. And this time, maybe stick with those 50-cent boxes. Work harder, dig deeper. It's easier to go to the boxes with the higher priced comics where every comic there is like one you wish you had. Anyway, talk to you all later. Bye-bye.